Hello everyone. How do we choose between on delay and off delay? Some people think it's pretty random, right? Because, for example, if you use this example to energize the on delay, because you can always use the exam off instruction to trigger the off delay. So you can get equivalent logic, right? So you can see here, I want to emphasize that it's not equal. It's not the same, right? So that's from the demo, I can prove for that, right? So that's you to see later on the Studio 5000. And before I'm going to demonstrate on the program, perhaps you will see some of the tags are a little bit weird, all right? So like for example, on here, right? This is not a single timer. It's a one element from a timer array. It's a two-dimensional array. So because I need a lot of timers, I'm tired I don't want to create so many different names of timers. So I just use a two-dimensional array to represent each timer when I use them, right? So it's just one element, right? Same thing for the output. So over here you can see the on this output is supposed to be a Boolean tag, but I create this sum pump as a double integer because double integer has 32 bits. So I just use each individual bit .0 and .1 as different output. So we can compare the result, right? If I use the same output, that'll be double coil, right? So that's why I want to create this way in order to demonstrate the program, right? Like I said, so I don't think people claim the on delay and off delay, they are just pretty random. You can either do one and to replace the other one. I can only say it's partially true, right? So as on the demo, you can see in lost situation, if you use on delay, you can also use off delay to replace that. Right, so that's why I said it's partially true, but it's not totally random. There's some situation we should choose on delay or off delay, which I'm going to demonstrate in this video. In the next video, I'm going to show the opposite. So in some situation, we should choose off delay or on delay. That depends on the situation. All right. So first, let me explain the selection guide. All right. So that's what I call this because we need to ask ourselves some of the questions when we choose the timers. But before, we need to start from the basics. So we know first we have 4 basic timing functions, right? So there are 2 basic type of timers, on delay and off delay. Of course, you can have other combination type or maybe some special type, but they all developed from these 2 basic types, right? And so that's why we need to focus on these 2 different type of delay and 4 different type of timing, because with on delay, it provides 2 different type of timing function. One is normally open, time close, right? With PLC, we just use the exam on instruction to check the on delay done bit. So of course you can use a different name, right? Over here, I just use on to represent a on delay tag. It's a timer tag. We use that on the on delay, right? So we on delay can also provide another timing function, which is normally close, time open. So in PLC program, we just use the exam off instruction to check the on delay done bit. So we always use done bit, but use different instructions to get the different timing function. On the off delay, right, you can see there's just 4 different combinations, right? Off delay provide the normally open, time open. I already explained that how it works in different videos, right? So with the off delay, right? So if we have a TOF instruction, and also with, I just use a OFF to represent the tag. So from this off delay timer, if we use exam on to check the done bit, we will have the timing function of normally open, timed open. And also, if you use exam off instruction, you will get the timing function on the normally close, time close with the done bit. Right, so that's briefly review, but we need to have this concept in mind. Right, so when we start to choose that, we need to ask ourselves two questions. So first one, in order to control the output, what kind of timed or done action? So when timer is done, what action you want the timer to have with the output, either open or close, right? Is that required from the timer? So that's the first question we need to ask ourselves. So basically, that question is here, right? Those the timed action on here, right? So let me choose different color, right? So the other question is that when the timer is not running, right, which is the normal situation, normal operation. So what kind of the action is the timer required, right? So that's also normally open or normally close, right? Either normally open, normally close. You can see here, right? That's this part, normally open or normally close. So that's the two basic questions we need to consider in order to choose the most suitable timer function with the application. So I will use the examples to demonstrate that, right? So let me talk about the examples. So over here, I talked about these 4 typical applications before, but this time I remove the triggers normally open, normally close type. It's just because I want to show you there's no restriction on the triggers normally open, normally close. We can do either way. The most important thing is to decide which type of timer we're going to use. All right. So the first two are the example. I'm going to talk about this video. The other two will be covered in different video. So let's look at the first one. So after a water level switch is activated and held for 5 seconds, we want to energize a outlet pump. So you can see the input is the level switch, right? So that's the trigger. And then the pump is the output, right? So again, so we need to ask ourselves, what's the timed action, right? So we have timed open, timed close, right? So in this situation, if you understand the requirement, so we want to choose timed close, right? In order to energize the pump, the timer need to timing the period of time 5 seconds. After 5 seconds, timed close in order to energize the pump, right? And the other question, remember that from the previous slide, the normal action, right? So if the timer is not running, when it's not running during the 5 seconds, what kind of action we want to have from the timer in order to control the pump? It turns out the normal action, we should choose normally open, right? Because if the timer is not running over the time, we want make the timer output open in order to de-energize the pump, right? So combine together, normally open, timed, close. So that be the on delay. So on delay is the most suitable timer we should choose, right? So I can demonstrate that on the Studio 5000, all right? So over here, so it's running online, all right? So I have a switch level. So that's a Boolean tag, right? Right now it's 0, right? And we have a timer which is 5 seconds, right? So that's again that's a two-dimensional array, right? So I just call that sum pump, right? Then when water level high, we want pump to start. So that's the first one, dot 0, right? So this is the normally open, time close, right? So we talk about this if we energize that check the dump bed, right? So now if we toggle that, if the switch is closed, so the start timing after 5 seconds, this one will become true and the pump will be energized. Right, so over here supposed to be 5,000. It's just I'm running on the emulator, so that's why there's some difference, right? So anytime when the switch change, you can see here if I toggle that back to off, then the pump stop. So that's what we want. Right? Normally open, time close. All right. So let's look at another option. All right. So here. So for example, same level switch, right? Same, we want to use off delay. So I need to compare two of them. So I can do this. So this is a trick from the Studio 5000. You can compare both side by side. Okay, so this is the first one, on delay solution, right? So this is the timer, and over here I use another timer tag, but I use off delay. You can see here that's off delay, right? So uh, because it's off delay start when the trigger turn off, right? So that's why I need use over here exam on. I choose change to exam off in order to trigger that, right? So use timer off, not on. So I need to use this to trigger. So I'll talk about the problem later. So right now, let's see the normal operation. All right. So if I trigger the switch on, you can see both start timing. So after 5 seconds, and then both pumps start, right? Dot 0, dot 1. So you see, okay, that proves there's no difference, right? So we can choose any way we want, right? So there's no like a one type over the other has some advantage. But over here, that's my comments here. So if the trigger is on at the beginning, so for example, if your PLC, when PLC power on start to run, the trigger is on at the beginning, right? So for the normal operation, we need to hold, to wait for 5 seconds before we turn on the pump. But if you design this way, in off delay, the pump will energize immediately, right? So I'm going to demonstrate that, right? So right now you can see this. If I move here, the tag value is 1, right? So in order to show that, all right, I have to make some changes. What I can do is I can get offline to re-download, but let me do that, all right? So in order to persuade you, over here, I need to toggle this, right? So this was 0, and I will toggle that to 1. Right now the value is 1, right? So that simulate the trigger is on at the beginning. Then we start to download, right? The reason I hesitated to do this is just Studio 5000 will take a long time to finish the download. I don't know what happened. It used to be very quick. I guess maybe there's some actual features or security, like right now, I found it just stop at the linking stage for a very long time. Even though it's a very short program, it will take some time to finish the download. All right, but in order to demonstrate what I'm saying is true, I'll just show you the whole process. All right, so once we download, we set up the PLC to run mode, then that will simulate the situation. When PLC start to run and the trigger is on, if you design with off delay, the timing, the delay doesn't happen. The pump will energize immediately. So that's the problem. So that prove they are not exactly the same design. They don't have exactly the same result. All right. So right now, I already download, right? So you can see here, it asks me to change back to run. I'm going to click yes. Once I click yes, you will see on the left-hand side, this pump will not energize immediately. You'll wait for 5 seconds. On the right-hand side, the .1 will energize right away. That's the difference I'm going to prove, right? I'm going to click yes. You can see here, this one is off, this one is on, right? After 5 seconds, this one turn on. Right? So you can see there are different designs, right? So you may say, okay, that's not big difference, not big deal, right? So 5 seconds. Yes, in some situation that doesn't matter. But what I'm trying to say here to prove on here, they are not exactly the same. Right, so that's the problem. And the reason for that is we talk about on the previous video, we talk about TOF. Because with the TOF instruction, there's a PLC pre-scan. With the pre-scan, it put the timer into done state. So with the done state, I can show you on here again, all right? So I show you this before, all right? Let me just draw that. So there's a special scan that's from Alan Bradley, the instruction manual, right? There's a special scan before the PLC going to run. It's called pre-scan. With pre-scan, the PLC controller will clear all the 3 bits, right? They all become 0. And then the ACC will set the same as preset value. I already explained that in the previous video. All right. Let's see what exactly happened when this is running. All right. So because with the pre-scan, it's all clear and also set up that, right? So with our program, the tag value is 0, right? So when you use exam off, you will get logic false, right? So with logic false, you can see here, wrong condition in is false. So after the pre-scan, PLC will start going to this flow chart, right? So I'm not going to go through the whole flow chart. That probably on a different video, but we will understand why the timer off didn't wait for 5 seconds. That's because here you can see when it when PLC started to run your logic, the condition is false. That's gonna go into here. T bit gonna set to 1, right? Then PLC will check the done bit. Remember on here, right? So on the pre-scan, the done bit is cleared. It's 0. So that means the result from this question will be here. The done bit is 0. So we'll take this branch out on here. So PLC will run from here, going to done bit on here and follow on here on this box. So that's the action PLC controller will take. We'll continue clear all the 3 bits and then follow, you can see here, follow this and set the wrong condition out to false and then end. Right? So that's why we have this result on here, because PLC when start running on it, because it's false, all the bits set to 0, clear. And then over here, in order to get the output, we use the exam off, right? So that's the pump start right away, right? Some people will think, oh, okay, if you toggle this, change this to exam on, probably no, it's not the solution, all right? So the solution, the problem, we need to address the problem with this solution is that we need to use the first scan to reset. You can see here, I talked about the first scan before in different video. So we need to use the first scan to reset the timer off, right? So I'm gonna do that in real time on here. So zoom out a little bit. All right. So over here, we'll just create a branch, and then we'll use exam on the system column FS first scan. So when it's first scan, we want, remember we talk about the some of the uh, special scan, right? So this bit will be only turn on for one scan, very first scan. And then after that, we'll turn off, right? So basically, we use this to set up as a trigger. So from here, you can see here, when the run condition is true, when it's running, you can see here, we set that. So that means when the done bit is set, we will not turn on the timer output, right? So let's look at the here, right? So if we finalize here, all right, because we already you know what, we have to re-download again. I could use the I'll just ask you to trust me, all right? To trust me, because the download process take too long, all right? So I'll just clear the accumulation back to 0, right? To simulate, start from the beginning, right? And this one will not change, all right? Well, let's just take some time. Take some time, do it properly, get offline in order to show you the result, right? So now I'm offline, right? I add this branch, now I re-download, right? But download with the trigger on. You can see here, this is on, right? So I'm going to download. Before we add this first scan, we saw the output on the right hand side turn on right away when we set it into run, right? Without 5-second delay. So let's see if we can have this one to solve the problem. All right, basically we use the first scan on here to trigger the off delay and then reset, right? That before was in a done state. Then after we use the FS first scan to trigger the off delay in on condition, which reset the timer. Right. So then if you remember, we talk about the off delay timer, some of the specification ask the user to turn on the off delay at the beginning for at least maybe a few seconds in order to make the timer operate appropriately. Right. So that's the equivalent in the PLC. We just use the first scan as the trigger to reset it, right? So now you can see here it's in the program mode, right? So again, trigger is on, right? Trigger is on and pump is off, right? This is the modification we have. So now I'm going to change to run, right? You should see the same result from both pump, right? Once I click yes, you don't see this one turn on, right? But start timing after 5 seconds, it turns on. Right. So now if you turn off this, the pump is off. And then turn back on, both will wait for 5 seconds to turn on the pump. Okay, so this is the first demo. So I present the difference between these two design, right? So I prove even though there's only a minor difference at the beginning, but with the first scan, we solve the problem, but they are not exactly the same design, right? You can see here, even though it's minor, but on delay is it's better suitable than the off delay. All right, so let me close this one, right? Go back here. So I'm going to demonstrate another one. So this one, let me do the same thing, all right? Okay, so this one is that we use a different type you can see here different type of trigger. So this one is normally open type, and this one, oh no, this is the other one. I need to open this. This is original one, right? This is normally open type. Right now, the trigger become normally closed type, right? I'm trying to present this side by side is because I want to emphasize the timer type is more important. The trigger type, it doesn't really matter. If we have a different type, we can just use exam on, exam off to toggle between that. They should have exactly the same function. All right. So if you're curious what's happening behind on here, I can show you on the main. So when I call, before I call those subroutine, I use this to reverse logic to normally close. So in this way, both will operate in the same time, right? So for example, over here, right now, the level switch is on. If I toggle that, right? So same thing here. This one, change to 1, right? You can see here, this one is 0, and this one, tag value is 1. Right? So they are the opposite, but we can use the opposite instruction to trigger that by using the same type of timer instruction. So those two pump will have exactly the same operation, right? So you can see here, so if I control T down here, right? So we will wait for 5 seconds and then turn on the output, right? So on delay, it's good, right? So let's look at uh, the final competition. There's another one called the if we normally close, right? Use time off delay, right? So for this, same as before, right? So we have to use the first scan in order to make the function in the same result, right? So zoom out this little bit, right? So let me open the original one, right? This is the original one, right? Normally open type. This is normally closed type. But this time, not only we change normally closed type, we just want to practice if we can use the off delay to replace on delay. You can, yeah, you can do that. But it's possible, but you have to do something actual, right? This is what we see on here. If we the pump is off, right? Both pump is off right now, right? And if we turn on the switch back after 5-second delay and here, right? So this time I don't want to use no, let's just do this way, all right? And here, I want to show you the prescan the result, right? So I'm changing this into program mode, right? Remember, whenever you toggle from program mode into run mode, PLC will run a prescan, right? Right now, this trigger is 0. I will toggle that to 1, right? To simulate what exactly happened uh, with the prescan, right? So now if I change back to run mode, see what happened, right? Both pump are off, didn't turn on, right? After 5 seconds, the pump turned back on, right? So as you can see here, right? So this is the situation is better suitable by the TON. But if you have to use TOF, then you have to do something special with the first scan. So this is, of course, this is only one solution. You may can come up a different solution to do that, but whatever you do, you will have to do something extra on top of TOF solution. But TON solution is cleaner, it's more natural, it's easier, right? So this is the first example we talk about. Let's look at the second one, right? Second one is also best suited with the on delay, all right? So like I said, so this is a dome light inside the card, so that's on the ceiling, right? Controlled by a limit switch, which is activated by the door card inside the car, right? So when the door is open, the light is turned on immediately. So we all understand, right? When you open the door on the car, the light on the ceiling on the top will be on, right? So, but if we close the door, right, after the door is closed, the light will not turn off immediately. Instead, we'll wait for 5 seconds. 5 seconds after the door is closed, the light turn off. Right. So again, so if we ask ourselves the timed action, so over the time, what kind of action this timer should take in order to control the light? So after 5 seconds, the light should turn off. So in order to turn off, we should use the timed open function, right? After 3 seconds, whatever time, we should have the timer output open in order to turn off the light. Right? Then we also ask the question, what's the normal operation on the timer, right? Normal operation, so that means if you open the door, right, for a very long time, as long as you open the door, right, the light should be on, right? Whenever it's open, the door, when the door is open, the light turn on immediately. So that normal operation should be closed. So put together, normally closed, time open is on delay, right? So if you remember, I'll move back to here, right? Normally closed, time open here, right? That's on delay. So we should use TON, right? So that's go back to the Studio 5000 to look at that program. I don't think I opened that. I just need to open that for now, right? In this video. So let me close off them. All right. Then turn on the 20 and 21. All right. So let's look at here. So if you understand the previous example, this one will be pretty quickly. All right. So again, we should use time on delay, right? But over here in this routine, I gave you two different type of input trigger. So one is normally open, right? And then the other one is normally closed. So I'm trying to show you that doesn't matter of the type of the input, but as long as we choose the right type of timer, we should have the same result. Like right now, the door you can see here with normally open is 0. Its door is open, the light is on. Right? And this one, because it's normally closed, or when the door is open, that will be closed. And you also have the light on here. They operate exactly in the same way. So let me try that, right? If I toggle this to close, door is closed now, right? Wait for 5 seconds, light turn off for both, right? They operate in the same way. So if I open the door again, the light turn on immediately, right? As long as the door is open, the light is on, right? So that's the requirement, right? But if you close the door, it will start the timing, and then after that, turn off the light. So again, this is a better solution over TOF, right? With TON, it's pretty easy, straightforward. Then let's look at another routine. The other routine, I use the TOF, right? Off delay. That's I already explained that, right? With off delay, it has a problem at the beginning. So that's why we need to use the first scan to solve that problem, right? So you can see this is something actual we have to do in order to make TOF work, right? So let's try that. So right now, you can see the door is closed, right? Normally open type is 1, is closed. The light is off, right? Like right now, for example, you're sitting in a car, right? For a very long time, the light turn off, right? So then I'm going to toggle that, and that will open the door. When the door is open, the light is on. Okay? As long as the door open, both lights will be on all the time. All right, and then when you close the door again, it will start the 3-second delay. Then eventually after 3 seconds, both lights turn off. Right, so that's the solution for the on delay. All right, so I'll use the another video to demonstrate the off delay.